Hey everybody, I'm back again with another video. This time I'm doing some drone tech. I have a Syma X21W. Now this is a small little FPV drone that I got off Amazon, and I'm going to basically unbox it, then let you know my likes, my dislikes, how well it performs, and if I would buy it again. Anyway, let's get started with another video.
So what do you have inside? Box here. Pretty much got a drone, and then pop that part of the box out. You have your charger, some extra blades, small screwdriver, and then in this part of the box you have your remote controller and your manual on the back. And that's pretty much it for what's inside the box. So on the back here it's just held in with this band that's kind of taped together. Pop that off, and then the drone comes right out. So a couple of the reasons I got this drone is, number one, it's still a toy-sized drone, so it doesn't have any of the regulations on it. And I heard that this one has the altitude hold, which is a little bit better than my old little micro drone. And the other thing that I liked about it was that it had a 720p camera on it, which I'm not really looking to get great video, but it's also got FPV, which means that I can hook it up to my cell phone and fly it around. So on the bottom side of the drone you have this little compartment, looks like, that you can hopefully pop off. Yeah. So that part comes up like that, and then you have your battery. Battery's just folded in there, and then you have your connector. Looks like a proprietary connector, and then you have this little, I think it's 300 milliamp. I'll have to check on that. I'll put that on the video, what size the battery is, or it's on the box actually. There you go. 380 milliamp battery. It's different than my other little drone. This one is wider instead of longer, which is fine. That just means that I cannot use the other batteries with this drone, but I'll have to get some spare batteries, but I'm gonna try it out. Anyway, I gotta charge the batteries and then I'll test it. So you can charge your battery on the computer. This light on the USB cable should go out when it's fully charged. So while it's charging, let's bust this open and see what's inside here. This is the phone holder. I think it can hold up to an iPhone 6 Plus. Something equivalent. This is the remote. I guess that's what the screwdriver's for, is to take off the cover. Back of the remote. That's kind of nice. Very small screw. And it does not come with batteries for the remote, so you will have to get those. And they look like AA's. So here's the size difference between my old drone and my new drone. So they are not hugely different in size. The actual old one has bigger blades on it. user manual is actually in English, which is a plus. It has the 6-axis gyro stabilizer, and it is designed modular, which is true, headless mode, and all that good stuff. 360 flips, Wi-Fi. Read this. So my initial impressions of this drone, I've flown it now for a couple of days, but not a whole bunch. But my initial impressions are that these blades that come with it are trash. They do not give the drone enough power or lift to maneuver in the wind at all. You pretty much have to fly this drone inside. If you go outside and there's even like a 3-mile-an-hour wind, it will push your drone around and you can possibly even lose it. What I did though to help it fly a little bit better is I replaced it with the Hubsan blades that I had for my little Hubsan, and it did perform a little bit better. It was able to at least push through the wind a little bit more. Now that was on low. On high it's even faster, but I'll tell you right now, the blades that come with it, they're too short. They have a little bit more slope, but they're so short and they don't cut through the wind that well. So I would say if you're planning on flying it inside, you should be fine because it is pretty stable. And I will show you guys some video of it flying. But in order to really have it be an outdoor drone, you have to upgrade those blades. Some of the things I do like, the camera works pretty well, the Wi-Fi works pretty well. I was able to capture some video onto my phone and that worked decent. It stuttered a little bit. It doesn't have super great range. I would say if you keep it within, I don't know, 80 feet, you should be okay. If you don't, you could start dropping frames and dropping signal. The other thing is I do like the design with the little door and the power button and all that, although it seems like they have a lot of wasted space on this drone, because when you open up the door and you have like this little space here that you could have fit a bigger battery and maybe made it a little bit thicker and a little bit longer on this backside here, and it would have fit a much bigger battery, because the battery's kind of tiny. It's like 380 or something like that milliamps. I would think that 500 milliamps, although it does run for about 5 minutes. I'd say it runs for about 5 minutes, which is decent, but if you put it on high or if you're doing the Wi-Fi and video and stuff, it gets a little bit shorter than that. And the other thing I don't like is that when the battery runs low, this thing starts to drop out of the sky like a rock. So if you're flying for a couple, 2-3 minutes, you need to like lower your altitude, because it's going to, when it's about to die, it's going to drop, and it's going to drop fast. I had it pretty much drop out of the sky. I was only about like 6 or 8 feet up, and so it came down really fast, but it came down pretty hard. So, you know, there's some good things. I like the looks of it. I like the design. It kind of looks like a little mini Phantom. The power button's awesome. The battery compartment's kind of nice compared to my old Hubsan, which I had to hot glue this so that it would like be out of the way, and getting the battery in and out was kind of a pain in the butt because the battery would swell on the Hubsans. So I would say that this is a good beginner drone, but don't expect too much as far as range or speed, because it's kind of gutless compared to my Hubsan. This thing's way faster. So if you're in it to fly around and cut through the wind and fly outside, the Hubsan's probably better. If you're in it to take a little bit of video and do a little FPV, although I found the FPV was kind of awkward because of the location of the phone on the remote. It was kind of, I don't know, making the remote really heavy. And so I spent more time looking at the drone trying to control it than I couldn't even take my eyes off of the
the drone and to look at the screen. So as you can see in some of the video shots here, the video quality is not the greatest. It is 720p, it is not the highest resolution, there is no gimbal to keep it stabilized, and as you can see, it's quite choppy. Now, that is mostly due to the fact that I am casting the video signal to the phone and then recording onto the phone. That is the only way that this thing can record. There is no SD card, so this is pretty much going to be the record quality you get from the drone. It, like I said, is not the best. It's really meant to be utilized as an FPV drone that has the capability to cast to your phone and record on your phone, but the record quality is not great. But if you can get over that, it is a pretty stable drone and a nice little flyer, and on a non-windy day, it is pretty good. So let's fly this thing indoors first so that you can see how it performs. Now I'm not going to do the FPV part because it's such a small space, plus I'm not really needing to do that right now. So I'm going to turn on the remote first, and I'm turning on the drone when you go up and down. So that's up and down, and that will get it paired or bound. And then if you want, you can hit the button to launch it right here, or you could just lift the stick up. And as you can see right here, you're going to fly it over so that you can see the altitude hold here. So as you can see, it's relatively stable. It could be fine-tuned a little bit, but it is pretty good. Get it a little farther away from the camera so I can actually see it. There's tons of stuff in here, so lots of stuff for it to work off of. So one of the things I do like about the unit is it does have altitude hold, which means that I can spend more time trying to fine-tune the direction and less time trying to get it to stay in place. So little taps here and there. So it's kind of tending to pull back, and if you have that happening to your drone, if you press the left stick in and hold it, and then press the opposite direction in which it's pulling, usually that will set it. So I had it going backwards, now I got it going forwards. Get it there. Looks like it's, let's see here. So it's just pulling right a little bit, so. Okay, that's not bad. So, you know, it's not going to be perfect, but it is definitely not bad as far as the altitude hold is concerned. This is a very small room, so you got to be really careful about how you fly here, because there's tons of stuff to hit. As you can see, it's nice and slow though. In fact, let me just move the camera back so I can. So I was able to let go of it for a second. It drifted just teetering on destruction, but not quite. So here we go. Coming back towards the camera in reverse. And as you see, I got pretty good control of it.
And I'm only in rate 1, so let's put it in rate 2. Now it's much quicker and more responsive. But look at that. So I can kind of guide it, tilt it, and let it just kind of float. And then when I'm coming towards something, pull it away. So with my Hubsan, I used to, you know, have to fight the thing all the time to keep it stable and keep it the same height. You know, I mean, in a way it's good because that's how the bigger drones are, but as you can see here, I'm keeping it pretty darn stable. And it's coming right at the camera. Right there. Much more accurate than my other drone as far as slow flying is concerned. So it's pretty cool for, I mean, it's really fun for indoors. Outdoors, when you got a little bit of wind, it doesn't perform quite this good, but it's pretty good actually. And remember, I changed out the blades. So in all actuality, it's performing so much better with the Hubsan blades than it did with the Syma blades that it came with. Syma blades that it came with, it was an issue. They were just really small, and so it was really sluggish. With the Hubsan blades, I mean, I've got so much more power, so much more quickness. Rate 2 is still very controllable, but it has a little more juice to it. So I would say that if you were going to get this drone, you would probably want to, and they were only $6 on Amazon, and I got like, I don't know, it was like 16 pairs, something like that, or 16 total blades for like $6. So it's not like the blades are super expensive. Really fun though. And like I said, it flies for a good 5 minutes with and probably even longer without the FPV going. Okay, so it's running out. Now it's going to drop out of the sky and it's going to stop on its own. So as you can see, really stable flight. I did not crash once, and this is not a super big room. I mean, it's basically, that's the whole room. And I've got a ceiling fan on the top, so I could have hit that, could have hit a lot of stuff. And so I would say it's got a lot of good points to this drone. Very stable, good indoor flyer. FPV does work well with not too much lag. But the actual wind resistance of this drone is suspect, especially with the stock props. The battery could have been bigger, but you know what? 5 minutes of flight time for this small a drone is actually above average. Usually with my Hubsan, I would get 3 or 4. And I do like the fact that it has a power button on it. I mean, that's big. My old Hubsan, I would have to yank the battery out to turn it off. Anyway, I'll probably show you some exterior video after this. Okay, so let's get this craft off the ground. The first thing that I noticed is that there is a little bit of wind, and that is affecting the craft a little bit today, but also every time I take this craft off, it never fails. It forgets its settings, it forgets its trim. Even though I calibrate it on the ground, like the manual tells me to, it still has to be adjusted. So how you adjust it in flight is you press and hold the left joystick in and hold it, and then you take your right joystick and you
point it in the direction opposite of whichever way it's drifting to. So in this case I was drifting forward and right, so I had to press and hold it in, and then press back, and you would hear a beep, and then you press in and press back again, and you'll hear another beep, and that will cause it to stop drifting forward, and then I had to fix the drifting right. So that's what all this series of beeps are, is I'm trying to get the trim corrected on the craft so that it's not so jumpy and uncontrollable. Once I did that, then I started to feel like, okay, I have to swing it into rate 2, because I would say the wind was blowing between 2 and 5 miles an hour. And once I got it in rate 2, I felt comfortable enough to raise the craft up into the air. Now, I could have probably went higher. My Wi-Fi signal was not that low, but I was more afraid that the wind was going to take the craft and blow it over my house or blow it into one of the trees way high. So I decided I'd go about as high as that palm tree, and then just try and keep it steady and keep it in the breeze and see how long I could do that. Now, subsequently, it is a little bit windier up there, and I started to feel the craft was starting to blow backwards. So I pretty quickly decided to bring the craft back down. It's not a good day for this, and there's just too many trees around here for me to feel comfortable to be this high for too long. So after the wind kind of was tossing it a little bit and making it drift, I decided to pull down on my sticks and start to descend my craft. Now, the good thing about this craft is that even though you start pulling down and you're descending pretty rapidly, it doesn't like stall or start to flutter or anything. It actually came down pretty quickly and was pretty stable. So once I recovered from that little gust, I decided to keep it low and just start flying around, maybe do some passes, do some twirls, and see how controllable and how much lag I had on my FPV. And as you can see, the FPV is pretty laggy. You cannot use this drone for taking like actual pictures that you want to save and post on your Facebook or anything. And as far as FPV is concerned, it's so laggy that I wouldn't even use it for FPV. You lose your orientation too. I don't think the craft's camera is really wide enough. I mean, as you can see, it almost looks like 3x4 or something like that. It doesn't look like 120 degrees to me. And it really doesn't even say on the box or on the website or anything what the degrees are. But, for FPV, I think that it's too narrow of an aspect. And, and with the lagginess of the Wi-Fi, I would recommend going with the 5.8. I think that 2.4 gigahertz is just too common, and everybody's Wi-Fi is running off that. I have actually noticed that if I'm in a high Wi-Fi area also, my craft does kind of some funny stuff. So if you take it into a business area where Wi-Fi is really saturated, you could run into some problems. So definitely, this is a toy grade drone. It flies pretty nicely when you can get it under control, no wind, and a big area, then no problem. As you can see here, I'm spinning around my yard and I'm keeping it pretty much under control and able to recover before I actually hit anything. But I would say that, is this drone worth $50? It really depends on who you're getting it for. I mean, if somebody really likes small drones, wants to fly it indoors and just mess around, do some flips maybe, or just do some small FPV learning drone, I think that those are all cool, especially the fact that it has altitude hold. That's kind of cool. I mean, and it's a cool looking little drone. Looks like a little mini Phantom. I will leave a link in the description to get this on Amazon if you guys are interested. If I had to rate this thing, you know, out of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it like a 6, 6.5, just because of the fact that it does have altitude hold. It does give you a decent app. You can record to the phone, and the actual handling when you get it tweaked in is pretty good. And I like the controller design. I didn't mention that before, but the controller is pretty cool looking. And so all of that together makes this drone decent for kids. But if you're looking for a true FPV, or you're looking for a drone that can fly outside, this is not the drone for you. This is a drone for beginners, just to, I guess, dip their toe into the water and try it out. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, when this battery runs down and the lights start flashing, you don't have a whole hell of a lot of time to get the craft onto the ground. And if it deems it like the battery is going to get hurt, it will just drop out of the sky. Okay, so let's finish this video on some likes and dislikes that I have for the Syma X21W. So, number one, I do like the design. I think that it is pretty cool looking. I do like the little door on the bottom. And the performance overall with the altitude hold is pretty good. I also like the fact that it has an on and on off button on the top of the unit, so it's really easy to switch it off when you're done with it and switch it on when you're all set up and ready to go. I do like the landing pads on the bottom. They're nice little cushy rubber here, and they seem to do a good job. I think that the app is pretty decent. I mean, it's easy to navigate, easy to connect. You can go right into your Wi-Fi, but you always have to connect to your Wi-Fi before you start the app. If you start the app before you connect to the Wi-Fi, you just get a black screen and it doesn't work right. Another quick tip is to link up the copter to the remote first before you connect to the app and all that. Because I did that once where I didn't link up first, and it thought that I wanted to fly on the app. And it doesn't allow you to do both. It allows you to do one or the other. Either you have control with the remote or you have control with the phone. So that is another little tip right there. But other than that, you know, I would suggest if you're going to, oh, no, okay. And here's another one, is the battery. I think that the battery size and the flight time is not bad. 5 or 6 minutes for a little copter like that, pretty good. So, you know, that's a definite plus there. And for 50 bucks, I mean, you know, you can't expect too much. As far as the controller's concerned, I really like the controller. That is a big plus. I think it fits well in the hand. It responds pretty well. I love the altitude hold. I love the power button being where it's at. The auto takeoff and other stuff, and the record, I pretty much use the app every time to start and stop recording. And then I just took it off manually. But, you know, this chip clip style phone holder, which, you know, I don't have a phone here to put it in, but it fit my iPhone 6s Plus. No problem. Any wider than that, you're not going to fit a tablet in it. So, you know, if you, and why would you fly with this thing with a tablet anyway? The camera's not that great. Something I don't like is the camera. It is not a wide enough field of view, meaning that you're only getting like so much, and maybe that was by design because of these here, because the bumpers are here and you don't see the bumper, so obviously the field of view is only going like this, and that is a big weakness to me, because really, in order to fly properly with first-person view, you really need to be able to see your peripherals. And so in order to do that, you would need more like this kind of view. You would see these in the way. That's probably why they did it. I really don't like that. No SD card, another big negative to me, because the FPV on this is super laggy. And so you're not going to get, even though the camera is only 720p, you might have been able to get some good shots with some really bright daylight, but because of the fact that this right here is so narrow and laggy, it's not really a camera bird. I hate propellers for this bird. They're way too small that come with it. As you can see from the ones I put on that were actually for my Hubsan, they're a good 1/4 of an inch on each side longer, which I feel gives it a little more lift and a little more power, and was the only reason I even attempted to fly outside. With the stock ones, I was a little bit worried to fly outside with this thing. Another dislike that I have for it is that these don't come off. Okay, so if you wanted to take these bumpers off to maybe get a little bit better performance, you pretty much have to cut them off. So I find that to be a little bit of a poor design, but it is a good trainer. So for if you got a little kid, these bumpers do help for that reason. You know, the bumpers hit the wall and it won't necessarily crash. It'll kind of keep it off of it. It's very light and won't cause too much damage if it does hit stuff. And it was pretty durable because I crashed it a few times, and the only thing I did do was chip my blade a little bit, but the actual body of the unit didn't come apart. It held together. It's actually pretty solid. It's got 4 screws on the bottom of it kind of holding it together, and it seems pretty decently built. LEDs, they're a little bright. They're bright enough at nighttime, but in the daytime you can't see it when it's way up there. They're not super bright. You will lose orientation, so that's kind of another negative for me too. All in all, would I buy this copter again? You know, maybe for a little kid. It's nice for a young kid who's just learning how to fly, and you don't want to cause too much damage, and to see if they even like it. For somebody who's breaking into the drone hobby, it's probably a good first drone out there. It's 50 bucks. You know, I bought some of these batteries on Amazon, some spare ones, so that I have more than just 5 or 6 minutes of flight time. And I got a quick charger that can do 5 batteries at a time. So it's a nice little package for fun, but it's no DJI killer at all. Anyway, hopefully you found this informational. And if you did, please click like. And if you really liked it, please subscribe. And I will talk to you later. I'm going to get the tech out of here. Later.